On my 68th birthday, a package arrived, unannounced and shrouded in mystery, its presence like a shadow that didn't belong. No note, no return address, just a curt scrawl, "Happy birthday." The handwriting stopped my heart for a moment. It was unmistakably his, the son I'd raised for 2 decades, his pen strokes as familiar as my own heartbeat. It had been 3 years since I'd seen those lines, 3 years since our lives had unraveled into silence. Inside the box gleamed a limited edition bottle of bourbon, its amber glow catching the light like a jewel meant for a collector's shelf. But Daniel didn't know I'd sworn off liquor after my heart gave out 3 years back. A promise to keep breathing past 70. Instead of cracking the seal, I passed it to Thomas Reed, my closest friend and Daniel's father-in-law. Just a bottle, I thought, a gesture to bridge a gap. I was wrong, terribly wrong. That gift nearly cost us both our lives, and it was only the beginning of a truth I wasn't ready to face. If you're watching, hit subscribe and drop a comment with where you're tuning in from. I'd love to know. The bourbon sat on my kitchen counter, morning sunlight slicing through the window, casting slanted beams across its deep amber hue. The label was elegant, charcoal with silver script, the kind of bottle that screamed expense before you even touched it. I traced the embossed seal with my finger, its texture cool and deliberate under my calloused skin. Bourbon used to be my ritual, not reckless, but measured. A single pour to unwind after a day mending fences or hauling firewood. Before my heart betrayed me, Clara and I would share a glass on the back porch, the evening hum of cicadas wrapping around us. That was before the hospital, before the doctor's orders stripped my choices bare. Daniel was there that day, slouched in the corner of my hospital room, eyes glued to his phone. I thought he was just avoiding the weight of it all. Now I'm not so sure. Our falling out wasn't dramatic. No shouting matches, no doors slammed. It was quieter, sadder. A missed call here, a skipped Sunday supper there. By the time 2 Christmases passed without a word, the silence had settled like dust. Seeing his handwriting again after all that time twisted something in my chest. Not hope, not anger, just a heavy ache I couldn't name. The envelope taped to the box was plain, unassuming. Inside, a card with 2 words in blue ink. Happy birthday. No dad, no signature, just those words, stark and cautious, like they were afraid to linger. I didn't open the bourbon. I pushed it to the edge of the counter and sipped my coffee, now cold, the kitchen clock ticking too loudly in the empty house. Thomas Reed's face flashed in my mind. Thomas. The kind of man who'd show up with a toolbox and a thermos of coffee before you even knew you needed help. When a storm tore half my roof apart 2 years ago, he was there at dawn, ladder-propped, nails in his pocket, no questions asked. If anyone deserved a fine bottle, it was him. Letting it sit untouched on my shelf felt like a waste. By noon, I'd strapped the bourbon into the passenger seat of my pickup, an odd instinct to keep it safe on the drive. The October sun hung low, bathing the fields along Route 12 in a golden haze, the air sharp with the scent of burning leaves. Thomas's house stood on a gentle hill, a tidy gray farmhouse with a wide porch that always looked ready for a postcard. Gravel crunched under my tires as I pulled up, and he opened the door before I could knock, sawdust on his flannel, boots scuffed from work. "John, what's this?" he asked, eyeing the bottle as I held it out. "From Daniel," I said, passing it to him. "Thought you'd appreciate it more than me." His eyes widened, turning the bottle to catch the label in the light. "This is something special, John. The kind you save for a big night, or make a night big to match it." I smiled. "Do that then. Enjoy it." It felt right, handing it off, like giving a good tool to someone who'd use it well. I drove home, the sunset spilling across the dashboard, but a question nagged at me. Daniel wasn't one for grand gestures, not without a reason. As a kid, he'd borrow gas money and forget to repay it. Yet here he was sending a bottle worth hundreds. Why? The thought lingered as I pulled into my driveway, the house dark except for the porch light's faint glow. That night, I cooked a pot of chili, the kitchen filling with the warm smell of tomatoes and cumin. It was a meal meant for sharing, but I ate alone, the clock's steady tick my only company. Around 9 p.m., the phone rang, the landline's shrill cutting through the quiet. Nobody used that number anymore. "Hello?" I said, leaning against the counter. "Dad?" Daniel's voice, smooth as ever, like we'd spoken yesterday. "Happy birthday." I paused, gripping the receiver. "Thanks, Daniel. Got your gift." "What'd you think?" he asked, a slight edge to his tone. "It's a fine bottle." I gave it to Thomas. Figured he'd enjoy it. A long silence followed. Not static, not a dropped call, just a heavy void. "You gave it to Thomas," he repeated, his voice cooler now. "Yeah," I said. "Seemed right." A slow exhale came through the line, then a click. He was gone. I stared at the phone, my stomach twisting, not from the chili, but from the way he'd asked about the bourbon, like it carried a weight I hadn't seen. I turned off the kitchen light and went to bed, but sleep was thin, restless, the kind that leaves you hollow by morning. The next day, I tried to shake it off, brewing fresh coffee and skimming the local paper. Around noon, the phone rang again, a local number I didn't know. "Mr. Harper, this is Ellen Reed, Thomas's wife." Her voice was taut, like a wire pulled tight. "Thomas is in the hospital. He collapsed this morning. They're saying possible poisoning." The coffee mug went cold in my hand. "Poisoning?" "He was fine last night," she said. "We shared a drink from that bourbon you gave him. This morning he could barely stand. The doctors are testing him now." My eyes flicked to the counter, to the spot where the bottle had sat. "Did he eat anything unusual?" "No," she said, her voice catching. "Just the drink. From that bottle." "I'll be there soon," I said, hanging up. The kitchen felt too still, the October light flat and gray. I stood frozen, then moved to the trash can. Something glinted at the bottom, a small, unlabeled plastic vial, dusted with faint powder. I didn't recall tossing it there. I pulled it out, its cap tight, and set it beside a mason jar in the fridge, where I'd poured a small sample of the bourbon before giving it to Thomas. My hands trembled as I closed the door. I called Mike, an old army buddy who now ran a small lab outside town. He owed me for dragging his car out of a snowbank years back. "Mike, I need you to test something. Bourbon, and maybe this vial." "This the kind of favor I'll regret?" he asked, half joking. "Just tell me what's in them," I said. That evening, I drove to his lab, the mason jar in a paper bag beside me. Mike met me in the lot, his lab coat thrown over a hoodie, the air sharp with antiseptic. He took the bag without a word and vanished inside. I waited in the truck, the sky bruising purple, my mind replaying Daniel's call, that long pause when I mentioned Thomas. My gut churned. Mike called the next afternoon. "John, you're not gonna like this. There's white snake root in the bourbon, enough to stop a heart, especially one like yours or Thomas's." I closed my eyes, the phone heavy. "You're sure?" "Tested it twice. You didn't drink it?" "No, Thomas did." Mike exhaled. "Then you both got lucky." That was the end of part one, not with clarity, but with a question that would drag me into shadows I wasn't ready for. Because when I hung up, I knew Daniel hadn't just sent a gift. He'd sent a warning. The phone's ring in the dead of night is a sound you don't forget. But the call that comes when you're already bracing for bad news is worse. After Mike's call about the snake route, the world felt like it was holding its breath. I grabbed my coat, keys jangling, and drove to St. Mary's Hospital. The morning was cold, the streets empty, the sun too weak to warm the asphalt. The hospital smelled of bleach and stale coffee, the lights too harsh for comfort. A nurse pointed me to Thomas's room. He looked smaller, his face pale against the pillow, monitors beeping a slow rhythm. Ellen sat beside him, her hands knotted together, her eyes carrying the weight of someone waiting for answers that might not come. "John," she said, standing. "Thanks for coming." "How is he?" I asked, my voice quieter than I meant. "They're working on his heart rhythm," she said, her fingers tightening. "They found a plant toxin. More tests are coming." I stepped closer to Thomas's bed. His breath was shallow, his hair mussed in a way that made him seem younger, fragile. We weren't family by blood, but he was the kind who'd show up with a ladder before you knew your roof was leaking. "Did he drink anything else last night?" I asked. "Just the bourbon," Ellen said, her eyes searching mine. "He said it was the best he'd ever tasted. Wanted to save the rest." My jaw clenched. "Tell the doctors it was a new bottle, unopened. I've got a sample from it. I'll get it to them." Her hand hesitated, then gripped the bed rail. "John, what's going on?" "I don't know yet," I said, half true. "But I'm finding out." The doctor came in, a woman with gray streaks in her hair and a voice calm as a still pond. She spoke of enzymes and stabilization, words that promised effort, but not answers. I told Ellen I'd call with anything useful and left, my hands buried in my pockets, the air outside sharp as a blade. In the truck, I sat for a moment, staring at my reflection in the rearview mirror, looking like a man who'd already lost something he couldn't name. "Snake root," I muttered, the word bitter in my mouth. Back home, I went to the fridge, the mason jar still there, its amber liquid catching the light. It looked harmless, like any pour I'd savored years ago. I set it beside the vial from the trash, now on the counter, and stared. The worst things always hide in plain sight. I checked the trash again. The bag was turned inside out the way I hadn't left it. The vial had been there yesterday, I was sure of it. Now it was gone. I scanned the room. The deadbolt was locked, the windows secure, no spare keys hidden outside. But someone had been here. The air slightly off, like a book moved an inch on a shelf. I took a slow breath, not panic, but something colder, sharper. I called Mike. "It's gone," I said. "The vial from the trash. Someone took it." "You sure you didn't move it?" he asked, then paused. "No, you'd know." "I need to call the police," I said. "Do it," Mike said. "And John, don't let whoever this is think you're not watching." I hung up, grabbed a notepad and split it into 2 columns. What I know and what I can prove. Under "no," I wrote, "Daniel sent the bottle. Asked if I drank it. Voice changed when I said I gave it to Thomas. Snake root in the bourbon. Vial missing. Under prove, I listed Mike's test. The sample in the jar. Daniel's call, if my memory holds. The columns stared back, a gap between them I couldn't bridge yet. I pulled an old voice recorder from a drawer, its edges worn but the battery still alive. I slipped it into my jacket, its weight a quiet reminder to stay steady. By noon, I was at Daniel's house, a cookie-cutter place in a row of similar homes, his pickup gleaming in the drive. I knocked and he answered, his face flickering, surprise, then something calculated, then a smile too smooth to trust. "Dad," he said, like I'd dropped by for coffee. "Didn't expect you." "Didn't expect to be here," I said, stepping inside without asking. The house smelled of citrus cleaner, everything too neat, books on the shelf more for show than reading. "Heard about Thomas," he said, closing the door. "Rough. Sarah's with him now. Docs think it's a virus." "That what they're saying?" I kept my voice flat, watching him. That's what Sarah said. He met my eyes, his smile steady, like he believed it would land. You try the bourbon you sent me? I asked. He chuckled, soft. It was for you to enjoy, Dad, for your birthday. You know I don't drink anymore. People change, he said, shrugging, his eyes sliding away. I stepped toward the kitchen counter, where 3 bottles stood, 2 whiskeys, 1 gin, none matching the one I'd given Thomas. I ran a finger along an empty glass by the sink, casual. Thomas loved it, I said. Said it was the best pour from his top shelf, the single malt. Daniel blinked, slow, like a deer hearing a branch snap. Yeah, he said. Funny thing, I said, feeling the recorder's weight. I never told you where he kept it. His face froze for a split second. Then he laughed, shaking his head. You must have. You get talkative when you're nostalgic. I didn't, I said, holding his gaze until he broke it, grabbing a dish towel to wipe a glass already dry. Dad, he said, eyes on the glass. You always overcomplicate things, always looking for something to fix. You sent me a $500 bottle I can't drink, I said. I'm fixing that. He set the glass down, hands spread wide. Maybe give me some credit for once. I leaned closer. One question, Daniel, and the silence after it will answer for you. Did you tamper with that bourbon? The room went still. The fridge hummed. The clock ticked to 12:10. A car rolled by outside, tires soft on asphalt. He didn't speak, didn't look away. Goodbye, Daniel, I said, turning for the door. Dad, he called, his voice sharp, a hook. I stopped but didn't turn. Keep accusing me, and you'll lose me for good. I'm not accusing, I said to the door. I'm gathering. Outside, the air bit at my knuckles. I pressed stop on the recorder, its red light fading. In the truck, I sat, the device beside me like a witness I might need later. I didn't go home. I parked at the edge of a supermarket lot alone and called Detective Alvarez. This is John Harper. I've got information about a possible poisoning, a bourbon sample, and a recording you'll want. Can you come in this afternoon? He asked, his voice steady, professional. Yes, I said, and he gave me a time and an office number buried in the station's back halls. I hung up, watching shoppers push carts, their lives simple in a way mine no longer was. At home, I slipped the mason jar into a Ziploc, then into a metal tin, double-bagging it because one layer felt too flimsy now. I called Ellen, told her I was meeting the detective and would stop by after if Thomas wanted a visitor. She laughed, soft and tired. He'd rather see you than hear he has to be strong again. At the station, Alvarez's office was small, the window framing a brick wall. He offered water. I took it, my throat dry from more than thirst. He waited until I sipped before asking, Tell me about the bourbon. I laid it out, the package, the handwriting, giving it to Thomas, the hospital, Mike's test. I kept my theories locked down, sticking to facts. Then I set the tin on his desk, opened it, and placed the jar and recorder beside it. He didn't touch them, just asked small questions that weren't small. Who else has keys? When did you last check the trash? Did you tell anyone about the vial besides Mike? He lifted the recorder, testing its weight. This doesn't become a case just because we think it should. It needs to hold up under scrutiny. I want it scrutinized, I said. We'll send the sample to the state lab, copy the audio. If there's cause, we move. If not, I'll tell you why. I'm good with that, I said, meaning it. I didn't want the wrong man punished, just the right truth told. He leaned forward. Don't talk to Daniel until I say. If he reaches out, log it. Keep your answers short. I nodded, a weight lifting slightly, shared now with someone built to carry it. Outside, the sky was a dull gray, stinging my eyes more than it lit the way. At the hospital, Thomas looked less faded, his breath steadier. "You look rough," he whispered. "Look who's talking," I said, and his mouth quirked up on one side. "Heard you're cozying up with the cops," he said. "Making sure they're on our side," I replied. Ellen whispered to Thomas, private words I didn't catch, and I stepped into the hall to call Mike, thanking him for moving fast. "Watch your back," he said, and I promised I would. Home felt too quiet, the kind of quiet that dares you to fill it. I made an omelet, ate half, washed the pan to prove I was still me. In the hall closet, I opened the fireproof box, Clara's ring, the deed, my birth certificate, and added a note. "Bourbon sample with police. Do not discard." I slept on the couch, hall light on, boots by the door, a habit from the night after my heart attack. Before dawn, I woke, made coffee I didn't drink, and listened to the house creak. At noon, I visited Thomas, now out of critical care, his eyes brighter. Ellen said he kept asking what day it was, like he needed to anchor himself. Around 10 a.m., the phone had rung, unknown number. I let it go to voicemail. Daniel's voice, tight. "Dad, we need to talk. Sooner's better." I didn't call back, just wrote it down, adding the note to the box. The porch swing swayed once, no breeze to blame. Fear wasn't something I hid anymore. It was part of the truth, like nails in a board. The silence paced that day, tapping at my coffee mug, watching the phone. Alvarez's warning held me back from calling Daniel. I walked the house, hands clasped behind me, checking locks, the thread across the door still intact. Normal, but not safe. At noon, I called the station, steady now, and drove to St. Mary's after. Alvarez's office smelled of paper and wax. He stood, shook my hand. "The sample's at the state lab. Mike's results check out. We're treating this as serious." "Serious has levels," I said. "It does," he replied, almost smiling. "We're corroborating. Hospital tox panel, your audio, the sample's chain of custody." He handed me a notepad. "Write your timeline. When the package arrived, giving it to Thomas, Daniel's call, the missing vial." I wrote it all, his pen scratching beside me. "The trash bag was flipped," I said. "I didn't touch it." "Forced entry?" "No. No spare keys hidden. Daniel had one years ago, after my heart attack. Don't know if he kept it." Alvarez nodded. "If someone got in without breaking anything, that explains the vial. Anyone else know about it?" "Just Mike." "I'll have him document your talk. No forced entry narrows it down." He closed the pad. "Don't meet Daniel. If he shows up, call us." "I will," I said, taking his card with his cell number. "Call if anything feels off." At the hospital, Ellen's voice broke when she said Thomas was improving, moving to a step-down unit. Thomas gripped my arm, his handshake firm despite the hospital gown. "You look worse," he teased. "Brought my worst for you," I said, and Ellen laughed softly. When she stepped out, Thomas's voice dropped. "You think Daniel did this?" "I think that bottle wasn't a gift," I said. "You'll handle it right?" "Lawful and steady," I promised. He squeezed my arm, a silent agreement. Sarah, Daniel's wife, walked in, her eyes tired but sharp. "John," she said, "I'm glad you're here." "How are you holding up?" I asked. "Scared," she said, glancing at Thomas. "We need to talk." Ellen gave us space, and Sarah led me to a small lounge, the coffee machine humming like plastic. "Daniel's been off," she said, standing rigid. "Secretive. He keeps jars in the garage, dried plants, says it's a hobby. Online groups about herbal stuff. I didn't think it meant anything." "Snake root?" I asked. Her eyes flickered. "I saw it in his search history. Thought he was just curious. Tell Alvarez, I said. He'll want to know. I left him a message, she said, nodding fast. I've got screenshots, photos of the jars. Keep them. Let the police pull the thread. Why would he do this? She asked, voice cracking. Because if he can't control the story, he'll destroy it, I said. She flinched, but nodded. Back in Thomas's room, we talked about mundane things, weather, football, until the nurse came. I left, promising to bring magazines. At the hardware store, I bought new deadbolts and stick-on alarms, their shrill promise of safety a small comfort. The clerk chatted about early frost. I nodded, bagging the locks like they were bread. At home, the thread across the door was untouched. I installed the deadbolts, the screwdriver familiar in my hand, and set the alarms, testing their scream. I ate soup standing at the counter, spoon in one hand, bowl in the other. The phone buzzed. Unknown number. I let it go to voicemail. A text followed. Daniel, we need to talk, face to face. Another, don't make this worse. I copied them word for word, called Alvarez, and forwarded the texts. Can you check my front door? I asked. There's a scuff, like a key that doesn't fit right. I'll send someone, he said. I might come myself. 40 minutes later, Alvarez arrived with Officer Chen, who photographed the scuff and the thread. Alvarez found a spare key in my closet's tin, slightly off, unmarked. This isn't ours, I said. They bagged it for prints. The house felt witnessed now, not safer, but seen. That night I sat in the living room, chair angled to watch both doors, lights on to show I wasn't hiding. Another voicemail came. Dad, you're making a mess. Going to the cops wasn't smart. We could have handled this. I wrote it down, the words heavy. At 8 a.m., Alvarez called. State lab confirmed snake root. We're opening a case requesting Thomas's medical records. If Daniel contacts you, save everything. If he shows up, call 911. I showered, shaved, ate breakfast like each bite was a choice to stay steady. At the hospital, Thomas flipped through a magazine I brought, humoring me. Sarah arrived, her phone clutched tight. Alvarez wants Daniel's old laptop, she said. I've got it. Bring it, I said. Let the law do its work. She nodded. He texted me, asked if you were playing hero, said if anything happens, it's on you. Don't answer, I said, anger flaring. Forward it to Alvarez. Driving home, I took the long way, needing the road to clear my head. The thread was still there, unbroken. I sat with a notepad, writing, what does he want? 2 columns, money and control. Under money, I noted a $2,000 loan I'd refused last year. Under control, I listed the bottle, the missing vial, his calls. We need to talk. Control weighed heavier. At noon, the door alarm screamed. I grabbed the phone, moving to the window. A delivery truck idled outside, the driver leaving a padded envelope. He shrugged at the alarm and left. The envelope had no return address. Inside, a photo of my porch at night, the swing still, no one in sight. I called Alvarez. Don't touch it, he said. We're coming. Chen arrived, photographed the envelope and its spot on the mat. That evening, I ate on the back steps, the air crisp, the yard dark. Another text. Daniel, you think they'll keep you safe? Call me. I didn't. I wrote it down, locked it in the box. Morning brought frost, the grass brittle. Alvarez texted, we have him. In custody. We'll update. At the station, he said Daniel had lawyered up. Sarah's laptop had emails about root prep, searches for toxins in older adults. Charges were coming. Attempted murder, possession of a toxic substance, tampering. I drove without aim, passing the old mill, the diner's greasy glow. At the hospital, Thomas watched a muted game show, Ellen knitting beside him. "They got him," I said. "Good," Thomas replied. Ellen's needles didn't stop. That night, I sat on the steps with tea, steam curling into the cold. The yard was silent, save for a distant dog's bark. I thought of Daniel at 10, feeding ducks at the park, asking about the war memorials' names. Maybe I should have explained the mission wasn't always clear. 2 months later, Alvarez visited, leaning on the porch rail. The poison came from Sarah's cousin, a landscaper. Daniel decided to use it. I nodded, the truth settling like frost. I fixed the porch swing that winter, its chains quiet now. Beside it sat the vial, the glass, and an envelope labeled "Do Not Open," holding photos of Daniel, court papers, his final note. "We're more alike than you think." I didn't open it. Peace wasn't given. It was built, one steady breath at a time. Thanks for watching. Like, subscribe, and share your thoughts below. Click the playlist for the next story.